Well, what Trump tried to do with taking that cargo ship was to assert that he is in a position of coercing the other side. He was essentially trying to humiliate the Iranians publicly. And it may be a strategy that works in some other settings. It may be a strategy that has worked in some of his other negotiations with other countries. It is not a strategy that is likely to work with the Iranians, particularly when the Iranians believe that they actually came out strategically stronger out of this war and that the United States is not likely to go back into it. So I think something is going to have to be done here, whether perhaps it is the Iranians doing something retaliatory so that they feel that they're even, or if Trump were to release the cargo ship or allow it to go through. Well, I think at this point the engines are destroyed. But bottom line, something is going to have to be done because I find it very difficult that the Iranians will show up at the table without some sort of a measure that seeks to erase the last 48 or so hours. And again, look, both sides need to have a winning narrative to claim that they enjoyed these negotiations and came out of these negotiations as winners. But there's a very fine balance you have to do. You have to strike when you claim yourself a winner without humiliating the other side. And Trump loves the humiliation. The Iranians will not stand for the humiliation, and they're also capable of doing the same to Trump. So I think they have to understand they both either manage to get a narrative that is putting forward some sort of a success for themselves that doesn't humiliate the other side, or they're both going to have to end up having no deal and face the consequences of it.
So it's largely not even about military strategy, operational thinking. It's just about the egos, or specifically the ego of one guy, and how much the recipient party, the other side, is willing to sort of play the game based on his style. Would you say?
Unfortunately, yes. And I think, again, if we take a look at how Trump has operated throughout this presidency and the previous one, he really enjoys conducting himself in this kind, completely unrestrained on social media, humiliating the other side. And we've seen a lot of countries that essentially swallowed their pride, had to go along with it, focus on what's real and set aside the optics. Because a lot of it is just optics, particularly when he's losing in the negotiation. It becomes even more important for him to humiliate the other side publicly, to give the impression, the optics of as if he's actually winning. The difference is in those other settings when this was done, the United States was not in a state of war, but now it is. And that makes it so much more dangerous and risky for him to behave in the manner that he does.
So what lessons does this teach us about the extent to which we have a commander-in-chief behaving as he does, but also in a wartime setting versus being in a more peacetime setting?
This is the fear that a lot of folks have had, which is that at the end of the day, if a really bad crisis emerges in which he is really on the losing end of things, that this type of imbalance, this type of even if it is designed to look as if he's a madman, at this point, most people are actually convinced that he is mad, not just putting on an act. They see him as imbalanced, but not in the manner that he wants them to, in a manner that I think is going to really backfire on the United States. I mean, going out there and threatening to destroy an entire civilization, which fuels speculation that he was actually seriously considering nuclear weapons. What does that do to every other state that believes that their security is dependent on that of the United States, that are depending on the US as a protector? To see that this is the type of a conduct that the president of the United States does. And that's going to be very fascinating to see what the GCC states are going to do coming out of this war. They're not going to abandon the United States. They can afford to, but I would suspect that there's going to be some significant diversification away from the United States and a lot of investments in a lot of other countries, including China, which from the standpoint of most American foreign policy experts would be a very significant strategic setback for the US.